the Numinous Podcast with Carmen Spagnola.
Hi there, and welcome to the Numinous Podcast, where we have interesting conversations with everyday folks about the mystery of life. And every once in a while, I send you a brief missive, a little dispatch from here on the farm on Insilkshin-speaking territory, not too far away from a small town known as Summerland, BC. I'm your host, Carmen Spagnola. Our dog, Mona, became an ancestor this week. And I feel compelled to tell you about it because I am having that feeling where you just don't want to face life. You're just so full of grief. And this is going to be a very sentimental episode because I've been listening to sad songs, including Bruce Springsteen. And there's a line in one of his songs about bereavement where he says, everything is everything. And he repeats it a few times. How's everything when you're missing? And I just feel like disgusted with anything that has to do with something other than the fact that I'm bereaved. And so I feel like we've been doing lots of ritual, and part of the ritual is I have to do everything for the first time in a world without her. And podcasts, it's so cheesy, right? It's just podcast, but I don't know. It just feels different. So, and also I know that there are people who listen to this who are friends of mine. There are people who listen to this who are maybe sort of parasocial, but it feels like we know each other, or it feels like you know me. And then if we ever meet, if you say, oh, I listened to the podcast episode about Mona, I'll just know you care. And so that will make us bonded, right? So, Mona coming into our lives was really major, especially, this sounds so cheesy, but it is. It was an attachment, contact nutrition story, right? So I just feel like I want to tell you. Well, because the Mariposa lilies told me to. We have these Mariposa lilies, a kind of flower I've never lived with before. It's here in the desert. You should look them up. They're really pretty. And the day that we came home with Mona, after she was euthanized at the vet, there were all these Mariposa lilies blooming along the driveway that I hadn't noticed when we left. I feel like they kind of burst into bloom in just a couple hours. And I hadn't noticed them growing there last year. So now, obviously, every time I see a Mariposa lily, I'm thinking of Mona. And this morning, Ruben was coming in, and he said, there's a Mariposa lily blooming beside the path, which we've never had them close to our place. And of course, the path is a site of pain right now because it's like you want to get out of the house because it's so empty. We live in a very, very small space. Every time I would push my chair out from my desk when I was working, I would so often accidentally land on Mona's tail and she'd yelp because she was right under my chair every time. There's nowhere for her to be. So we always had to be very careful because Mona wanted to be very, very close. And then the problem with wanting to get out of the house is you have to come back to the house. And Mona was a real sentinel kind of dog. She was a hold down the fort kind of dog. And in these last few years, in her elderhood, she didn't really want to go running around with us on the farm that much. She would see us leave, she'd be all excited to like get out, but then when she'd be like, oh, you're going far away, she would just like lay down at the front door and wait for us to come back. And so coming back home is hard too. Anyway, before I talk about the circumstances of her death, I want to talk about how she came to us, because to understand, everybody understands the bond with the dog, or every dog person does, I guess. But with Mona, one of the reasons we got her is I made Ruben promise we would get her. Otherwise, I wanted a divorce. When Mona came to us like 12 years ago, that was like the worst time in our marriage, I would say. And morning, everybody. Okay, I'm gonna have to pause for a second here because the grunting is gonna be too loud. Good morning, everybody. Everybody waits for scratches when they're coming out of our mobile barn in the morning. All the pigs come up first and they want to get scratched, but they won't keep moving out the door. Okay, scratches for everybody. Hey, Kiwi. Okay, moving along there, Peaches. Hi, girls. We got 2 sheep as well. We have a mixed herd now of 4 Kune pigs and 2 royal white sheep. Royal whites are hair sheep, cross between a Dorper and I can't remember what else. Oh, sneezes. Keep moving, everybody. The sheep went out. So Ruben and I were really struggling in our marriage. He had not fully embraced the idea that he was as patriarchal as the next guy. He really identified as like a sensitive 90s guy who was doing absolutely nothing wrong, had this like very paternalistic approach to like my emotions, and was incredibly needy. And I don't blame anybody for having needs. This is my like secure attachment self is still saying, yeah, this person was very much putting his needs at the center of our marriage in so many ways and not at all able to see that. And I was so depleted. You guys, you have no idea how much I was fighting the patriarchy while I was fighting with my husband, and especially the like self-satisfied patriarchy that really thought he knew a thing or two about feminism, about being a good partner, about being secure. Anyway, we've come a long way. But at that time, I was so depleted in this relationship that I was like, I had left. I said, I'm leaving. I want a divorce. I went and stayed with a girlfriend. I was there for a week. There were a lot of tearful phone calls. He convinced me to come back, but I was like, the only way I'm coming back is if we get a dog. He had never wanted a dog before. He's not a dog person, he said. And I was like, I'm not coming back unless we get a dog, because and he would sort of dismiss this at the time, but I knew if I don't get some love that is just able to receive my love and love me back without criticism about how my love wasn't enough or wasn't quite right or didn't make him feel special enough. Like I needed that unconditional, warm, loving regard. And I wanted a dog. And so he relented after I left him. I didn't leave him because we didn't have a dog, but I came back pretty much because he said we could get a dog. I did not have faith that he was going to be able to change his attitude and change his behaviors and develop a more robust, solid sense of self that wasn't reliant on me being the emotional locus of our relationship. I did not have faith in Ruben, but I had faith that if and when Ruben and I divorced, which I thought was like pretty certainly going to happen, I would at least have a dog. And so, yeah, I didn't, anyway, yeah. I'm recording a dispatch about Mona.
While you pick cherries?
Yeah.
I'll probably be coming to help you pick cherries because I'm pretty much ready to spray.
Oh, okay. It's probably going to be more background noise today because, well, I just got finished picking cherries in the orchard. We had a rain last night, and that was nice. Just eat the fruit right off the tree. But so we have cherries, a few hundred cherry trees. Well, we have like 600 cherry trees, but we are retiring most of the orchard. We still have like, I don't know, 150 trees left. And it's organic, but you still have to spray for these particular fruit flies so that you don't get like maggoty fruit, right? And so Ruben is spraying in the orchard today. That's what that background hum is. That means we can't eat cherries for 3 more days. So I was happy when he asked me to go pick a bunch today so I can share it with everyone here on the farm, my in-laws and V and Ruben and I. How we found Mona and how she came to us is kind of a sweet story. So I immediately set upon scouring all of the rescue societies and humane societies and all of that, looking for a dog, not a puppy, but something that was, about a year old, where we could really tell its personality. Because we needed well, everybody always does, but in my case, I was like, I actually don't think I can do a puppy right now. And I really want to be sure of this dog's nature. And so I found the Victoria Humane Society. They had this very unusual situation where they had like 30 dogs surrendered from this man who lived in northern BC, very rurally. It was like you had to snowmobile in and out of his place, so they couldn't get these dogs out like in the winter when they found them. They had to wait until the spring thaw. And there were these 30 dogs of various, it was like border collie, Akitas, something that looked kind of like a chow. I don't know. It was just a mix of all these different dogs. And it was this man living in like a trailer or an RV or something out in the bush. And so all these dogs just like lived under his trailer, and they weren't getting high quality food or anything, and there's a lot of them. And so they were, I thought a lot of them looked pretty inbred, but there were some of them that were just so beautiful, I thought. And so here was this big bear-like tricolor dog that was border collie-ish in her face, but stand-up ears, like a husky or something. And her name was Tara. And she was very, very afraid and timid. These dogs not only had they never been in a vehicle, they'd never been in a house, they'd never had a leash. So the Victoria Humane Society got these 30 or so dogs, and they were called the Mountain Man dogs because they all came from this guy who lived in the mountains. So these were highly anxious dogs, and there was a lot of interest in these dogs because some of them were really quite beautiful and unusual looking. Unusual in the sense that they had the familiarity of a border collie, but the kind of robustness of something else Imagine a border collie chow, big fluffy border collie. And a lot of people wanted these dogs, but I had been looking for dogs. And so I saw this post come up right away, and I messaged them right away, and they were like, okay, well, you'll be on a wait list, but these dogs are going to rehab and recovery because they are so timid and anxious and really unaccustomed to people. They'd only ever seen one other human, and they were various ages, right? And so there was this one photo, though, of the mother dog, Tara, with this other little dog giving side eye. And I really thought the mother, I was like, oh my God, she's so beautiful. But they said, no, she's not going to be adopted. She, after a couple months, they were like, yeah, no, she's way too fearful and timid, and she just needs to not have a lot of change. But we have these other dogs that, you are welcome to come and see at the rescue. We're going to open it up now, and we'll see who are going to be the proper adoptive families. But usually what they would do is they would foster dogs first. So we were like, oh, okay, they're opening up. We go to the foster place, and we go and we apply to be a foster, and they've said, okay, you're on our foster list. Here we go. And so we show up at this animal rescue, dog rescue, and there's a woman there, and you know how it is, right? There's like some people who are animal lovers, and then there are other people who are basically part of the pack, and so they relate to animals so much better than they relate to people. This is one of these women, and she was amazing. She was awesome, and she was kind of checking us out. We didn't realize that this was, well, we did know it was an interview for us, but we'd filled out the paperwork. We thought we were like kind of approved, but her thing was, oh no, like we would match the dog to the right family because all these dogs, very different personalities. And we said, well, we're interested in this one particular dog that I saw in the photo. And she was like, well, we'll see. That one hardly ever comes out of the bush. So she had this like big pasture area with all these different areas where the dogs could go, free choice. And there was this dog that was so sweet and gentle looking, but wouldn't come anywhere near us. And so we stayed, 50 feet away or something like that, trying to see if she would come out. She was curious, but she wouldn't come out. And the dog rescue lady is watching us. And then what happened was Reuben just sort of casually went walking across the field, and this little tricolor dog went walking after him, just like slowly in that border collie creep kind of way. And then after he got far enough away, she, kind of noticed that V started walking past. So V went and walked in a big circle past, and she started following V. And then I started walking, and she followed me. And then we all started walking back towards the lady who was the rescuer, and she was like, okay, that she's chosen you. Like, she has chosen you. She has not shown any interest in any other human. So if you're interested in her, you can take her home. We were like, oh my gosh, okay, this is so wonderful. And so this, the dog from the photo liked us, and we're going to go and be her foster family. And so she's showing us paperwork, and then she's like, we realize, she says, oh no, this isn't for a foster. These animals can't be fostered. They are way too traumatized. They need to go to their forever home. So, you're either taking this dog today or not getting one of these dogs. And Reuben was like, looking at me like, Carmen, you said we were going to try it out. You said we were going to foster. And there was a lineup. We were the first people in line, but there was already 10 families scheduled. Everybody was scheduled, I think 15 minutes apart or something like that. And so if we didn't take her, surely the next family would, and we wouldn't be able to come back and think about it. They had a long list of people, well over 100 families who wanted a mountain man dog, maybe a couple hundred. And so I was like, no, I want this dog. And so Reuben was like, okay, fine. So we're bringing home the dog, and it's a forever dog. And her name, we called her Madonna. like Our Lady, like she was like a little saint. And so Mona is a diminutive of Madonna, Our Little Lady. So Mona came to us at 14 months old. She was terrified of people. She was terrified of the car. She was terrified of going upstairs and into the house and all that kind of stuff. We lived in the city, so we'd try to take her to the dog park. She was super reactive. It was very stressful for that first, 6 months. And we were doing, puppy training. We're doing all the things, but could not stop her reactivity. And so a couple things were learned. Number one, we had to become calm. We had to become so regulated in our nervous systems. We had to become the safe haven and the secure base, right? Safe haven in attachment theory, it's like, the individual needs to know that if anything happens to them, if they're hurt, if they're sad, if they're upset, that you are a safe haven, that they can come to you and you will not reprimand, you will not diminish or minimize, you will not ignore whatever their distress is, that you are the safe haven, that they can come to you and you will always receive them with warmth and love and care and compassion. So we had to become the safe haven where we did not discipline heavy, but we also needed to become the secure base. The secure base gives an individual the confidence to explore the world, to engage with the world with curiosity and collaboration and openness and cooperative feelings. So the idea is that if they go out into the world and something bad happens, they know that they can come back to their secure base to be soothed and reinforced and gain that confidence to know that they'll be okay. And around this time, I was doing the DARE training, dynamic attachment repatterning, and that's with Diane Poole-Heller. That's the somatic attachment training, all that stuff. So we were integrating it into how we worked with Mona. And one of the things we realized is instead of trying to correct her behavior at the dog park, is she needed some co-regulation. So the woman who was the dog rescuer brought her dog to the park about an hour, and she had to drive half an hour to come to our dog park from the country. And her dog, who was kind and calm and gentle and that Mona was familiar with, her dog would hang with Mona for about an hour at the dog park, and then as the new dogs started to arrive, this dog started to show Mona how to approach other dogs slowly instead of charging them, go gently to the bum to smell, not really aggressively. And so it was through that co-regulation. We didn't teach Mona how to socialize. We got a dog that she was in a trusting relationship with to teach her how to socialize. And then we watched their cues for what Mona needed. And it was funny because one day we went to the dog park and, it was an off-leash situation, but we were always very nervous about that with Mona because she was so reactive and she would charge these dogs and, that border collie thing would come out. She was too much. But this dog came to the dog park one day and it was a little smaller than Mona, but sort of similar looking. But what was unusual is it went into that border collie crouch where it was Mona was 100 feet away or further, half a football field. And she got a bead on that dog and she went into the border collie crouch. And so we let her off leash and they just crouched towards each other and just creepy crawled across the football field until they got to each other, and then they just exploded into joyful play, which we had never seen before. And it turns out this was a mountain. We said, "Is that a mountain man dog?" And the owners were like, "Yeah, is yours?" I was like, "Yes." And they recognized each other. So that dog whose name was Baru. She was about a year younger than Mona, so she would have just been like a little puppy. You know, we got Mona, they thought she was maybe about 14 months old. But Mona recognized this kin. She recognized her kin. And they would play and play. And people would comment about how it was like watching a campfire. The way that Baru and Mona would wrestle, and like they just couldn't be distracted. They were just they were kin. And so that was how Mona came to be able to relax and go to the dog park and not be one that we felt that we had to, you know, always be on edge. Like, what was she going to do? There was a period there where we were like, I don't know if we can keep this dog. Like, the way she lunges, the way she's so scared of people. She wouldn't like be barky or bitey, especially not towards people, but oh my God, towards other dogs. We were like, what? Anyway, that was how Mona learned how to develop some secure attachment and how to calm down and really settle into our family. And we did stuff like anytime people come over, she would want to hide under the table because she was used to like living in cramped quarters underneath probably the nose of an RV or like underneath some kind of mobile home kind of thing. I think it was like a mobile home trailer because we did see pictures and a little bit of video of how she had lived. So she liked little small places like that. And so we were renovating the kitchen of the rental we were in. And Ruben actually made like a cubby about the size of like one kitchen cabinet that Mona could be in and like see everyone in the dining area and everybody in the kitchen. And she got to be right underneath the kitchen counter in her own little cubby because she always loved sweet little spots like that. And over the years, Mona became a real people person. She never really liked any other dogs aside from Baru, but she sure loved people. And she really, she calmed down and became just the sweetest little thing. When she was about, 9 years old, well, maybe a little younger than that, she had, she was slowing down. And she had issues with sort of chronic UTIs and she just started to get stiffer and stiffer, limping every once in a while. And we had a wonderful vet in Victoria, Claudia Campbell at Kindred Spirits Vet, who suggested that we could do these monthly anti-inflammatory shots for Mona. And so she was on those for a couple of years. We'd go every month. She'd get a cartridge shot and she'd be pretty mobile again. But, she wasn't able to jump on the bed anymore. And so we just did stuff like, we built a little step up onto the bed and, we just adapted. And then we moved to the farm 18 months ago or so. And this was Mona's bliss, right? The wind in her hair, acres and acres of freedom, come and go as you please. But the sad thing was she just came and went a lot less. She was just so sore, She was always like right beside me when I was teaching, but especially here on the farm, it just seemed like we spent all day together every day because where she wanted to be was right under my desk or right behind my chair. So she was a constant companion. If you were in the Numinous Network in the last year and I'm trying to teach somatics in our little space in the RV, I had to like totally flip the room every time I teach and move everything out of the way. So that meant like Mona had to move out of the way all the time. And she, as soon as I would like move everything and then put down like a sheepskin or something for me to lay on to demonstrate somatics, she would just like be like, oh, thank you for this little bedding you put here. And so there were lots of classes in the network where Mona was right there and she was practicing along with us because, you know, that had been her job for many years, was I'm holding space for people online and Mona's right at my feet. And she just always, I don't know, it's like she knew she would get like a little closer, or she would like stretch or sigh while I was in sessions with people. It's like she could feel the vibes and know when everybody needed to take a breath or have a little release. But yeah, she had more and more mobility problems. And in the end here, Mona was getting not only her monthly cartridge shot, but also, you know, she was on codeine and acetaminophen 3 times a day. And she'd been on like multiple supplements for a year and a half. And in the last couple months, she was on ketamine. And those shots are supposed to help with pain for up to a month. But within 2 weeks, she would be immobile again. And, you know, she was such a stoic dog. We probably should have put her down a little earlier. But she, you know, you probably heard me say, if you're a regular listener on the podcast, my friend Jen, who's a guide in the network, used to be a vet tech. And she said that, you know, if an animal, if they can still do like 3 out of 5 of their favorite things, then it's, you know, it's worth them sticking around. The quality of life is there. And so, you know, one of Mona's favorite things was just lying at my feet. So that wasn't too hard. But she couldn't, she couldn't get up even to go to the bathroom. So she was soiling herself, peeing and pooping, and we were having to lift her bum just for her to stand up. And she was very reluctant to stand up. And then what happened is she just stopped eating. And I noticed one day as I was outside with her that she got very curious about going underneath the nose of our trailer, our RV, which is just like a little storage area. It's like really dumpy and it's like full of just like junk and like recycling and stuff like that. And it's not very nice. And she had never been interested in going in there. And she kept trying to get in. So we like unzipped it so that she could if she wanted to. And she would just go in and want to lay down there on the earth, just like lay her bones on the earth. Hey, Skaha. Yeah. Thanks. And she did that with Ruben too. And we just like kind of couldn't figure out what she's looking for. Is she like going? Anyway, Ruben said, oh, it's like she wants to go to a place of comfort, which is like a little small place. It's like the womb and the tomb, right? And so we had to make the decision to call the vet, and then the vet like wasn't available. To drive out here was going to be like $1,100. We were like, oh my gosh, we'll come and get sedation so we can sedate her because she hates car rides. And she doesn't even go near, she won't, if she thinks we're walking towards a car, she will not follow us. So we had to do that. And then the vet was like, well, you could come, you know, in 3 days. So we had like 3 days knowing when her death date was going to be. So we were able to spend really great time with her and gave her all her favorite kind of rubs, and for hours and hours. And actually for the last 2 nights, we made a bed on the floor of the living room and we slept with her on the floor. And really felt like she was letting us know she was ready. We were trying to feed her, well, for months, a couple months, we were trying to feed her like fresh canned salmon and steak, and sometimes she would perk up for those bits, even though she wouldn't eat wet food or kibble or anything like that. In the last few days, I was just feeding her cheese. Like, she was a big cheese hound, right? Fine aged, white aged cheddar, English cheddar. And, in the last month, she was refusing even that sometimes, which is like very concerning. But then in the last day, she was interested in eating cheese, lots of cheese. And so we prepared and we did the thing that we do, which is like, I don't know, around here with Ruben and I, in the Spagnderson household, if you love someone or you purport to love someone, one of the ways you show that is by being willing to feel the pain of their loss and let it be extended and awful. Just let yourself be racked with anguish and also do the proper things. So Ruben dug a very good grave. He's just amazing. He has this like weird skill. I will always want to remark on how beautiful his graves are. Every animal we've ever buried, he has dug the most straight-sided, deep hole. I don't know how he digs square holes like this, but... And we like have this grove near the horses where the buai lives. If you didn't read this in the Spirited Kitchen, or if you haven't been in my workshops, you might not know what the buai is. It's a Scottish Gaelic word. The buai is some aspect of the landscape that is the spiritual essence of the land made manifest and visible for humans. In other words, there's something in the landscape that it like draws you in, it calls to you, and you don't know why. It's because it's the buai. It's the soulful center, the anchor of a landscape. It's not always the most charismatic thing. I mean, it can be like a mountain, or it could be like a really big tree. In our case, it's a rock. It's a big boulder, but it's covered in lichen, and there's a grove of lodgepole pines around it, and it's filled with grasses and Saskatoon serviceberries, Saskatoon bushes, shea, which is the Insulshan name for Saskatoons. They're one of the 4 food chiefs of this land. So there's a very important spiritual resting place here on this land. I know my in-laws, my father-in-law wants his ashes scattered there. Like, you just know that this is the spiritual center of the land. And so it's right adjacent to, like right beside where the horse pasture is, the horse paddock. And so that's where Ruben dug the grave, and he filled it with fresh alfalfa, so it would be nice and soft and sweet smelling for her. And my mother-in-law found this hand-embroidered linen tablecloth that we used as a shroud. And we got grave goods. We went down. My kid V, who's, autistic and very sensitive, had days to spend with Mona, just the 2 of them together, being quiet, but didn't want to be there for the talking part of the burial or the doing part. But when we went down to sort of ready the grave before we were leaving to take Mona to the vet, we looked down in the grave, and there were grave goods there. This like beautiful bone that had some yarrow and other healing herbs wrapped in a beautiful ribbon, and the ribbon matched a ribbon that V put on Mona's collar. And we put in a canned tuna and a whole bunch of cheddar cheese, and Ruben also found like a really nice clump of horse manure, because Mona, when we got horses, was like, yes, little shit eater. And he put that in like a paper towel and wrapped it like a little bundle. And her water dish that my mother-in-law put outside was a piece of my mother-in-law's Tupperware. She was like a hardcore Tupperware fan, so we were pretty shocked when she absolutely willingly said, yes, you can bury the water dish from outside my door with Mona. And we put water in it, and Ruben cut a clump of really beautiful long grass in case Mona got a tummy ache. Oh. So I'm sitting here in the horse paddock looking at Mona's grave, and a blue bird just came and landed on it. So when it came time, my in-laws came down, and Dee was there, but kind of a little ways away with the horses who were lying down, resting. It was a very restful, peaceful evening. And I sang a Gallic lament, Thou My Soul's Healer, which is, was kind of, I was thinking of it as like Mona's perspective, because, you know, Mona by this time like couldn't walk. I was in so much pain and was just, she wanted to go outside. The last 2 days, we just went outside and sat with her for like hours. I would just sit with her, and she just wanted to have the wind in her hair in the shade outside. So she had a hard time. She had a hard time moving around. Anyway, this song seemed to fit. Thou My Soul's Healer is basically like petitioning spirit and saying, you know, I'm tired, astray, and stumbling. Like, help me, save me from snare and trouble. Like, deliver me. So I sang that, petitioning spirit to come. And then we lowered her in the grave and said a few words, and then we started putting the dirt over her. Actually, no, the first thing was we put her in the grave and all of the herbs over her. The other thing I had done was I picked every single rose in my garden. Every single rose. I was like offended by other claims to beauty other than our beautiful, sweet girl. So I picked every single rose. It was like a big bowl overflowing with roses. So overflowing that as I like drove out to the gravesite in the golf cart, and Ruben was behind me in his golf cart. We have a little fleet of golf carts. My in-laws have a golf cart too. It's like 70 acres here. It's a long way to go to things. So Ruben said that the whole path had rose petals, which is just totally fitting because, yeah, as we had come back from the vet, all these Mariposa lilies had bloomed all along the driveway. And it just made sense that there would be flowers all along the path to her resting place. So we put all the roses, we all put handfuls and handfuls of rose heads into the grave. And then as we covered her, I sang another song, Glen Lyon's Lament, which is more of a, it's not so much about the lyrics, it's a very well-known Scottish Gaelic lament. And it is about death, but it's kind of more of a romantic one. But the thing is, it has a kind of chorus of vocables that groups would sing. Like, it's a song that everybody would know and everybody would sing. It's kind of like the Irish have the parting glass, you know? It's like there's songs, or Oh Danny Boy, everybody knows it. And so Glen Lyon's Lament is a bit like that for the Highlanders. And so I sang that song kind of as a way to just call our ancestors around and help call Mona over. My Auntie Deb was a huge fan of any kind of animal. and also had very deep relationships with her dogs. And she died last year, so I know that Mona has the best guardian angel, guard and companion over there. And I joked that, as I was saying, like, the ancestors, please call her over and make her way well. Mona had incredible recall. When we would be at the dog park, she could be a football field away, and if we called her name, she would come running across the football field. People would hear us call her, and then they would watch her go, and it was like better than agility. She would just go through like packs of dogs playing, and like she was one of those dogs who could have gone past weeders in order to get to her owners, right? It was like kind of a little party trick. She was very showy that way. She had the most amazing recall you could even imagine, because she was such a people person. And Ruben and I were discussing that one of the rituals we could do to honor her is every year on June 30th, or maybe it should be a year and a day, so it would be easy to remember, Canada Day, July 1st. We'll just go outside and call her name. It's wild to think I have to wait a year, but that's a kind of vigil that I will do. I'll really look forward to going out into the day or the night and just calling her name. We did other things too, like Ruben, when he was digging the grave. We're on very, very rocky land, but he said that the soil just seemed to kind of give way. There were like very few rocks. It was very easy to dig. And he took out a bunch of rocks and gave them to like my mother-in-law to put in her on her deck where Mona would go. And we have one right at our front door that's the Mona rock, and it's a really good size. Actually, it's not as big as her head was, but she had like a pretty small little skull, and she loved cheek and ear and shoulder rubs, and she would like make these snarfly little pig noises as she would like collapse into my knees or my lap or whatever. And so it's very nice to feel like it's a piece of her right at our front door. And now, of course, she's with the horses, so she always has companionship, and I'm here every day. I put a video together if you want to see what Mona was like. You can go on my Instagram. Right now it's the first photo. It's like me and her in the golf cart as the sun was coming up one day. She would come down and do chores with me because she loved to eat horse shit. So she could not run all the way down here anymore, but I would put her in the golf cart, which she actually didn't really, she hated cars and any kind of transport, right? It was like an early trigger for her, I guess. So I kept it to a minimum, but some days she seemed like she really wanted to get out there, and if it was a beautiful day with beautiful sun coming up over the mountain and there was just a little breeze, she just loves the breeze in her hair. So I would take her down here. So I'm sitting here right now on a log looking at her beautiful headstone. She has this beautiful headstone covered with lichen, and it looks just like the buoy, the big boulder covered in lichen, and she is there. And now she'll be here waiting for us when we all are laid to rest here. Anyway, that's my story about Mona. Thank you for listening. Take care.